Hey guys, today we're diving into another truly horrifying case. If you want to support my channel, make sure to subscribe and stay active. It really helps me out. I'd be super grateful for that. Let's get started. On a cold February morning in 2014, law enforcement in a small Virginia town began a search for a missing college student. 21-year-old Sam Cresta, a dedicated daughter and outstanding student, had vanished without a trace. Following an evening meetup with a friend, her parents, accustomed to daily calls from their daughter, were alarmed when they didn't hear her voice for the first time. What initially seemed like a misunderstanding quickly unraveled into a chilling mystery. Sak Cresta was born in Nepal to Dramani and Rajesh Cresta parents, who prioritized education and raised their children with deep respect for tradition. When Salman was 3 years old, the family decided to emigrate to the United States in search of greater opportunities. They settled in Vienna, Virginia, a town known for its welcoming environment, especially for immigrants from South Asia. Sam adapted well to her new home, while her family continued to speak Nepali at home. She quickly learned English and seamlessly integrated into the school community. Teachers noted her exceptional academic abilities, and classmates described her as cheerful and kind-hearted. During her school years, Sam developed a strong interest in science, particularly biology and psychology, which laid the foundation for her future aspirations. A pivotal event in Sam's life was the tragic loss of her older sister Manisha, who passed away in an accident. This heartbreaking incident deeply affected the family but became a driving force for Sam's personal growth. She resolved to dedicate herself to medicine, inspired by a desire to help others and prevent similar tragedies. During her high school years, Sam participated in IOU's volunteer projects, where she gained first-hand experience in the impact of healthcare. After graduating, she enrolled at Virginia State University, choosing biology and psychology as her primary fields of study. Samna was known for her strong motivation and organizational skills. She set ambitious goals and pursued them with unwavering determination. Her ultimate dream was to attend medical school and contribute to improving the lives of others. In stark contrast, Jessica grew up in a very different environment, raised in a strict Baptist household in Easton, Maryland. Jessica's upbringing was shaped by rigid religious principles that left little room for deviation. Her early years were marked by a deeply personal trauma, a harrowing episode involving aggressive behavior from a family friend. Jessica never discussed this incident with her family, choosing instead to suppress her feelings and conceal her pain. When Jessica enrolled in college, she sought to break free from the strict religious environment that had defined her upbringing and focused on her studies. She chose two majors, biology and aquaculture. However, internal conflicts persisted. Jessica began to realize that her feelings toward other women conflicted with the beliefs instilled in her by her family. This created an ongoing emotional struggle that she couldn't handle alone. In 2012 at Virginia State University, Jessica met S during a lecture. Sam's energy and kindness made a strong impression on Jessica. Over time, their interaction became more frequent. They often discussed coursework, shared opinions on scientific topics, and prepared for classes together. For Samana, this connection was a natural extension of her open and warm personality. For Jessica, however, their growing friendship quickly took on a different tone. Her interest in Sam began to cross the boundaries of a typical friendship. The attention Jessica gave to her often felt unusually personal. Sam focused on her studies and future career, didn't notice that their friendship was taking on a deeper meaning for Jessica. This bond, which started innocently enough, would soon play a pivotal role in their lives. Jessica increasingly sought opportunities to spend time with Samana, while Samana viewed their interactions as part of a normal friendship. At this point, no one around them suspected that these interactions would one day lead to tragedy. Jessica's challenge lay in the fact that her feelings for Sam were far from platonic. She began to grapple with the realization that her attraction conflicted with the strict beliefs of her upbringing. This inner turmoil grew. On one side, there was her desire to maintain their friendship. On the other, her struggle with unrequited romantic feelings. Jessica tried to hide her emotions, fearing judgment from others and rejection from Sam herself. Meanwhile, Sam began developing a relationship with someone else. She started dating Scott Melly, an upperclassman preparing for law school. Their relationship began as casual conversation, but soon evolved into something more meaningful. Scott was captivated by Sam from the start, and despite her busy academic life, she made time for him. The pair supported each other in pursuing their ambitions, which only strengthened their bond for Jessica. Sam's relationship with Scott became a source of deep emotional distress. She felt a jealousy she couldn't openly express it. Frustrated her that Samana was spending less time with her, prioritizing dates and outings with Scott. Small things like Sam mentioning Scott in conversation stung Jessica and intensified her longing to be in his place. Jessica began to analyze her feelings, trying to understand what exactly drew her to Sam. She realized that her attachment wasn't just admiration, but a deep emotional connection. At the same time, she felt increasing pressure from her upbringing. Jessica constantly reminded herself that these feelings went against the religious principles of her family and the community she grew up in. Yet no reasoning could help her overcome her internal conflict during this time. Jessica increasingly withdrew, avoiding discussions about her emotions, even with close friends. She felt that no one in her circle could truly understand her. The only outlet for her feelings became her journal in its pages. She described her pain and confusion, but even in writing she was afraid to fully express her thoughts, fearing that someone might discover her secret. As time went on, her emotional struggles began to affect her daily life. Jessica started avoiding Scott, trying not to run into him on campus. This wasn't just because of jealousy, but also out of fear that he might notice her feelings for Sam. At the same time, she tried to remain a good friend to S. But the growing tension made it increasingly difficult for her to maintain their usual ease of interaction. The situation was made worse by the fact that Sam saw Jessica solely as a friend. She was comfortable sharing personal topics and future plans with Jessica, but never saw their friendship as anything more for Sam. Her relationship with Scott was a priority, and she worked to strengthen their bond. This only reinforced Jessica's belief that her feelings were unreciprocated in an effort to cope with her growing internal discomfort. Jessica sought help from university counselors, however. Even after these sessions, her emotional instability persisted every time Sam mentioned Scott or talked about her romantic plans. Jessica felt overwhelmed by anger and resentment. She began to blame herself for her feelings, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find a way to let go of them. These emotional struggles laid the groundwork for what would follow. Jessica's attachment to Sam, compounded by jealousy and internal conflict, gradually turned into an obsession. Her inability to resolve her inner turmoil would eventually lead to tragic consequences. One of the turning points in Jessica and Sam's relationship began with what seemed like a casual conversation during one of their meetups. They started talking about movies, and Sam mentioned that she had never seen The Lion King, excited by the chance to spend more time with her. Jessica suggested they watch it together for Samana. It was a friendly suggestion she accepted without hesitation for Jessica. However, this was an opportunity to grow closer to Samana and explore the possibility of deepening their connection on the scheduled day. Jessica put a lot of thought into the evening. She planned every detail, carefully aiming to create a warm and welcoming atmosphere. She viewed this as a significant moment in their dynamic, a chance to take their bond to the next level. Samna, on the other hand, approached the evening with her usual casual and relaxed demeanor. This difference in perspective became the first sign of how differently they interpreted their time together. What Jessica saw as a pivotal moment, Samana saw as a simple movie night with a friend. As the film played, Jessica grew increasingly tense. Her focus wasn't on the movie storyline, but on Samna. Sitting next to her, she felt it was the perfect moment to finally express her feelings. At one point, unable to contain her emotions, Jessica interrupted their conversation about the film and nervously leaned closer. She jokingly suggested they try a kiss, presenting it as a light-hearted idea. Sam was taken aback but didn't see it as a big deal. She interpreted it as nothing more than a curious and harmless experiment, driven by the playful nature of their friendship. Without giving it much thought, she agreed, seeing it as just another quirky moment in their interactions. For Jessica, however, this kiss was monumental. She saw it as validation of her hopes and believed it might mean her feelings were reciprocated. After that evening, their perceptions of the situation diverged drastically. Sam resumed her daily life, treating the event as insignificant. She continued to interact with Jessica, as she always had, unaware of the profound impact it had on her friend Jessica. On the other hand, couldn't stop replaying the moment in her mind. She overanalyzed every word, every action, looking for hidden signs that Sam might share her feelings from that point on. Jessica's internal tension began to escalate. She slowly realized that Samana didn't see her the way she had hoped. This gap between Jessica's expectations and reality left her feeling increasingly frustrated and disappointed. Attempts to bring up the topic with Samana didn't yield the responses Jessica wanted, further fueling her emotional distress. Jessica's growing struggles led her to seek help from a university counselor, who recommended she start a course of Medicaid to stabilize her emotions. The prescribed treatment aimed to reduce her anxiety and help even out her mood swings. However, Jessica didn't notice significant improvement. The issue was that she wasn't entirely honest with her therapist about her feelings or the details of her relationship with Sam. By withholding key information, Jessica made it difficult for her counselors to fully assess her situation and provide effective support. Jessica sought comfort in conversations with her friends, discussing her emotional struggles without explicitly mentioning Sam. However, she began to notice that those around her couldn't provide the support she craved. Her accounts of discomfort were often dismissed as common complaints, and the advice she received felt generic and unhelpful. This only deepened her sense of isolation. Meanwhile, Sam was becoming increasingly absorbed in her studies after being accepted into the University of Pennsylvania's medical program. She focused on preparing for the next chapter of her life. Her schedule became more demanding, and her priorities shifted toward academic and professional goals. She spent less time with friends, including Jessica, and concentrated almost entirely on her career aspirations for Saman. This period marked the beginning of her long-awaited dream to become a doctor for Jessica. This growing distance was deeply painful. She interpreted it as a sign that their relationship no longer held the same importance to Sam. Even their rare interactions brought little solace. Their conversations revolved around Sam's plans and academic progress, rarely touching on personal topics. Jessica felt increasingly sidelined, which only amplified her feelings of inadequacy in this context. Jessica began experiencing obsessive thoughts about how to restore her connection with Sam. She imagined various scenarios where she would confess her feelings or find ways to capture Sam's attention again. However, every potential solution she envisioned seemed insufficient. At some point, Jessica started considering more significant actions to regain Sam's focus. One early indication of the events to come was a conversation Jessica had with a friend. She mentioned her desire to plan a special evening for Sam, one where they could have an open and honest conversation to resolve lingering tensions. She talked about the potential details of this meeting, but avoided specifics. Jessica hinted that the evening needed to be something Sam would remember for a long time. At the time, her words seemed innocent, but in hindsight, they took on a more ominous tone. On the evening of February 7, 2014, the two friends arranged to meet at Sam's home. Jessica had carefully prepared for the occasion, viewing it as a pivotal moment to rekindle their closeness. She chose an outfit she thought would be fitting for the special night, and brought along wine and dessert. Hoping to create a relaxed and inviting atmosphere to Jessica, this evening was far more than a friendly gathering. It was an opportunity to express her feelings, and perhaps receive the response she had long been hoping for. When Jessica arrived, her expectations were immediately shattered. Sam greeted her in casual attire, wearing simple pajamas and slippers, with no hint of the celebratory atmosphere Jessica had envisioned for Sam. This was just an ordinary evening spent with a friend she planned to share dinner and conversation. But nothing more. This stark contrast in how they perceived the evening was the first blow to Jessica, who was already in an emotionally fragile state. As the evening went on, the tension between them grew. Jessica tried to steer the conversation in a direction that she hoped would bring them closer. She made subtle remarks about their friendship and how much Sam meant to her. But Sam focused on everyday topics, didn't read into Jessica's words at one point. Jessica cautiously shifted the conversation toward more personal matters, asking questions about Sam's feelings toward her. She phrased them carefully to avoid suspicion, But with every vague or dismissive response from Samna, Jessica's frustration grew. The breaking point came when Sam openly stated that their friendship had no romantic undertones for her. She explained that she had always seen their relationship as strictly platonic, and that the kiss they had shared was nothing more than a moment of curiosity for Jessica. These words marked the end of any hope she had been holding on to. Months of resentment and hurt came rushing to the surface. She felt humiliated and rejected, unable to accept that her feelings had been completely disregarded. The conflict escalated quickly. Starting with raised voices, Jessica accused Sam of toying with her emotions and giving her false hope, caught off guard by Jessica's outburst. Sam tried to calm her down, but her attempts only made things worse. Jessica's words turned into shouts, and her gestures became increasingly threatening. Trying to defuse the situation, Sam suggested they end the conversation and wrap up the evening. But this only fueled Jessica's anger further. At some point, Jessica lost control of her emotions. She grabbed Samna, demanding that she listen. A brief struggle ensued, during which Jessica's frustration and hurt manifested in physical aggression. In an uncontrolled outburst, Jessica grabbed Sam by the neck and began squeezing. She didn't fully realize what she was doing until Sam stopped struggling. Only then did Jessica grasp the gravity of her actions. Her hands loosened, and she stepped back, staring at the motionless figure before her. The moment of realization threw Jessica into a state of panic. She couldn't believe that her anger and feelings of betrayal had led to such a devastating outcome. She knew she had done something irreversible. And in the moments following the incident, her mind was consumed by chaotic thoughts about what to do next. One question echoed in her mind: what now? Her mind raced with chaotic plans ranging from calling for medical help to completely hiding the body. Fear of being caught quickly took over, and she decided to act to cover her tracks. Jessica's first step was to hide the body. She found a sleeping bag in Saman's apartment, wrapped the body in it, and dragged it to Sam's car, which was parked outside. Jessica intended to stage the scene to look like a disappearance rather than a crime. However, the task proved too challenging for her alone. She called two acquaintances, Kefir Brown and Michael Heller, asking for their help with what she vaguely described as handling a problem. She deliberately withheld the details of what had happened when the two arrived. They immediately noticed Jessica's nervous demeanor. She tried to persuade them to help move the body without revealing the full story. Kefir reluctantly agreed, but Michael was more cautious, suspecting that the situation was far more serious than Jessica was letting on. Despite his reservations, they helped move the body into Sam's car. Jessica mentioned her plan to dispose of it entirely, but no concrete steps were taken that night. The following day, Sam's parents grew concerned when they couldn't reach her. Typically, she maintained regular contact with them, but this time their calls went unanswered. Alarmed, they reported her disappearance to the police. Authorities quickly launched an investigation, as Sam was a diligent student whose sudden disappearance was highly unusual. Investigators focused on her last known evening and began identifying individuals who had been with her. Jessica knew she was a prime suspect, as she was the last person to have seen Sam, hoping to deflect suspicion. She voluntarily appeared at the police station with her attorney and her parents, claiming she wanted to cooperate. However, during questioning, Jessica refused to answer key questions, raising suspicions among investigators. Her evasive and odd behavior made her the primary focus of the investigation. Meanwhile, police conducted a search of Sam's apartment. They discovered evidence of a struggle and blood that indicated a violent encounter had taken place. This supported their theory of foul play. Shortly after Sam's car was found, physical traces left at the scene quickly connected her to the crime. A few days after Sam's disappearance, Jessica was arrested. Her behavior during interrogations raised even more red flags. She contradicted herself multiple times and avoided giving clear answers. Both Kefir and Michael were also questioned by the police. Kefir admitted to helping move the body, but insisted he had no knowledge of Sam's cause of death. Michael, on the other hand, fully cooperated, telling authorities that he found Jessica's actions suspicious and had refused to assist her further. Jessica's arrest was the first step in uncovering the details of the crime. Her friends who had been involved in hiding the body also came under investigation. However, it was Jessica's missteps and erratic behavior that played a crucial role in allowing the police to piece together the truth as the investigation progressed. The facts became increasingly clear, and her culpability grew undeniable. The trial began in 2015 and attracted significant public attention. Prosecutors presented a substantial amount of evidence, including signs of a struggle in Sam's apartment, blood traces at the scene, and surveillance footage showing Sam's car being driven by Jessica. On the day of the disappearance, a critical piece of evidence was the discovery of Sam's belongings in Jessica's possession, including her medical kit and personal photographs during the trial. Jessica initially denied her guilt, claiming her actions were the result of an emotional breakdown. However, faced with overwhelming evidence, she eventually admitted her role in the crime. In her statement, Jessica described the motives behind her actions, explaining that her anger stemmed from feelings of rejection and humiliation. When Samana made it clear that their relationship was strictly platonic, Jessica stated that at the time of the crime she was in a state of deep emotional distress, which caused her to lose control. Psychological evaluations confirmed that Jessica exhibited signs of depression and emotional instability. But experts noted that she was fully aware of her actions at the time of the crime. This finding was crucial in the court's decision not to consider her mental state as a mitigating factor. Prosecutors emphasized that the crime had been committed deliberately, and that Jessica's effort to hide evidence pointed to premeditation. The defense attempted to portray Jessica as a victim of her own internal conflicts, but the substantial evidence and her eventual confession weakened their argument. The court's verdict was decisive. Jessica was found guilty of premeditated murder and concealment of a body. She was sentenced to 80 years in prison, with 45 years to be served without the possibility of parole. Additionally, she received an extra 5 years for her attempts to cover up the crime. Kiefer Brown received a lighter sentence for his role in helping to hide the body. He was initially sentenced to 12 months in jail, but his term was reduced to 28 days due to his cooperation with law enforcement. Michael Heller was not charged, as he had refused to participate in hiding the evidence and had promptly reported his suspicions to the authorities. The verdict brought mixed emotions to Sam's family. On one hand, they felt some relief knowing that the person responsible for the crime had been held accountable. On the other hand, their loss was irreparable. After the sentencing, Sam's parents thanked the court and law enforcement for a fair investigation, but acknowledged that nothing could ever bring their daughter back. The trial not only brought closure to the case but also served as a sobering reminder of the importance of early intervention in addressing emotional and psychological struggles. The university where both Sam and Jessica studied introduced a mental health support program aimed at preventing similar tragedies in the future. Sam's family endured unimaginable grief, having lost their eldest daughter in an accident just a few years earlier. They were now faced with another tragedy. This time, one marked by profound cruelty. Losing Samana not only took their daughter from them but also shattered their sense of safety, trust, and justice. They were devastated by the knowledge that someone who had been considered a friend to their daughter could commit such an act. Their sorrow was compounded by prolonged anguish and an inability to come to terms with the tragedy. This devastating event left a lasting impact on the lives of those closest to Sam, and prompted broader conversations about emotional resilience and mental health within educational and social systems. The tragedy underscored the importance of timely intervention in cases involving emotional crises. The story of Jessica and Sam became a powerful example of how suppressed emotions, unresolved internal conflicts, and a lack of emotional support can lead to catastrophic consequences. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.